Good morning, Bitcoiners. I have Kris Konicki with me today. He's the customer success specialist at altertech.io. You can get to that website, check them out. They own and operate Bitcoin mining facilities and are committed to making Bitcoin mining accessible to everyone. Anything from being a hobbyist to a large scale operator, buying and owning and running your own hardware, and having it hosted as well, I believe. They offer a wide selection of high quality mining hardware, parts, accessories, anything you might need. And they also provide consultation through processes. So you can call them, get info. Kris began his Bitcoin journey in 2018 after his business needed to accept online payments, and but his card processor was down. And so later, after selling his business, some adventures and journeys there we'll talk about, his career path led to Bitcoin. He dove initially into GPU mining, progressed to ASIC mining, uh, mining modestly at first, but then built that out and leaned into that. And even a dedicated outbuilding to increase mining capacity, improve efficiency, learning a lot of things about it. Continuing down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, he absorbed as much information as possible, uh, uh, learned a lot about, got a lot of certifications for Bitcoin and blockchain, helped build a mining farm inside of a manufacturing facility outside of Detroit, assisted many other small scale miners with their setups, and just has become very adept at all the details in this world. All of which led to altertech.io. So he has a passion for Bitcoin, loves to help fellow Bitcoiners, miners on their journey. And I can't wait to hear more about what's happening lately in all this story. So, Kris, thanks for joining me today.
No, thank you. I appreciate you inviting me on.
I imagine, and I've heard, a lot of people, you start to understand Bitcoin a little bit. You get the FOMO in various directions as you love Bitcoin. They come they come to Altair Tech, or they contact you and they say, "Hey, how do I get rich mining Bitcoin?" Um, Not that you can't. It's a good way to get, say, non KYC Bitcoin and stack humbly, but it's a nuanced thing, isn't it? There's a lot of different incentives on why you might mine. It's not like in fiat terms, money in and good money out. It's kind of like broader reasons to mine generally. You want to speak to that a bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Bitcoin mining is definitely not a get rich quick type scheme. Uh, those that think that are in for a rude awakening. It's very difficult sometimes to get into the industry and be profitable and understand what you're actually getting into. I know when I started, there wasn't nearly as much information as there is out there now, which is absolutely awesome for people that are trying to get in. Uh, there weren't as many as Bitcoin Talk really, and some on Reddit. That was about it. And forums are kind of hard to learn sometimes when you're trying to ask specific questions, or there's language barriers, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And
so get
trust who you're working with too.
Yeah, absolutely. And you never know who you were dealing with. When I started mining Bitcoin, I had to buy my miners from somebody on WhatsApp, and I had to send them Bitcoin and hope
Mm-hmm.
and prayed that a miner arrived at my door at some point.
Please, please, please.
Yeah, in today's day and age, we feel that that's not needed anymore. There's no reason to have to shop and buy things on Telegram or WhatsApp or through brokers. It's 2026. We can turn this into an e-commerce business where you can buy miners with just a click of a button.
Yeah, and Altair has a lot of options. Just bringing this up to the stage real quick on your website. Um, when you go to the say you go to shop, you got miners, parts, and accessories. So for mining, just going straight to the mining here, commercial or home miners. So depending on how how hard and deep you're going here, let's just look at the home miners here. But there's because a lot of people might approach you where they're learning about it, and they're just starting to dip their toes in. Maybe they understand a bit about that, but
Yep.
between your time or your budget, you're going to start somewhat modestly. But you have a lot of different options here.
Absolutely. That's what kind of where you start when you're thinking about getting into Bitcoin mining. Is first you got to form a strategy, and that strategy really depends on a number of things, and it varies person by person. It can be your current financial situation, your financial goals in Bitcoin, your electricity prices, how you're going to use those miners. We have heaters that are also miners, so you can reuse the heat from the miner itself, so you're not just burning electricity. At least you're reusing the heat from the miners itself. Or
Yeah.
scale up and go with commercial miners, and you can send them out to a hosting facility where they run them, they deal with them. Pretty much the only thing you got to deal with is make sure you pay your bill at the end of the month to the hosting facility. So that's also another good option. It just there's such a wide variety there and everything in between. It really just depends on every person's different goals.
Yeah. So uh, for some good hash rate, this is what 90 terahash.
Yeah, that's the Avalon Q. It's
Pretty popular one here. It's
Yeah,
you
it's probably
mentioned
the
it's
most popular home miner of all last year, and of probably will continue throughout 2026. Never before have we had that much hash rate, 90 terahash,
uh-huh.
inside your home, run off a standard outlet, run off Wi-Fi or Ethernet. As you can see behind me, these larger units, they don't run off Wi-Fi. You got to have dedicated Ethernet ran to each and individual machine. Just adds more cost into the equation, where the Q is pretty much plug and play. It's the entire home series by Avalon or the Avalon home series by Canon is probably the most consumer friendly miners ever made.
Yeah, you kind of joked the Avalon Q is wife approved because as a guy, in my garage or in my little basement corner here, I can load up on kind of whatever, and I don't mind cables and things. But this one could just kind of run in the bedroom. It's quiet. It'll look nice, and but delivers the nice hash rate. And
Yeah.
so, and then there's the heat aspect. So, like for you behind you right now, it's wintertime. It's cold. You notice it. These things it's kind of nice to have a little heat generation. And then heck, you can incorporate versions of various miners, but you can incorporate them into your HVAC, your ducting system, whatever, have that air distributed and not feeling it like a space heater all the time. But you can kind of pick and choose what you want. I have my little bid axes here scrolling just in my background for fun. And I got into it literally because basically after, you take next step, getting off zero and taking self custody and then running a node. And then for me, the next step was, yeah, I want to to learn. I just want
Yep.
to have a little skin in the game. How do I join a pool? How do I solo mine? Not that it's hard. These are pretty plug and play as well on Wi-Fi, but it was an education for me. And also you feel like, okay, I'm contributing some hash, a little decentralized hash. And yeah, they trickle stack in a pool, but it's mainly for education and interest. And but then for anyone who wants to uh, maybe get more out of what you could otherwise spend on heat generation, why not lean in more if you want to? And that
Yeah.
can be a decent return and non KYC sats.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you were saying, that we sell various shrouds for either the larger commercial size miners or even that Q, where you can attach the shroud right to the back of the units. Same with the Q, and then you can duct that either if you're in a warm environment and you can't have any heat, you can duct that straight outside a window or up into an attic.
Uh-huh.
If you're in a colder climate like myself, you can duct it right into your HVAC and where you want it to go.
I was telling you offline before we started, and being wintertime, I've got a daytime fiat job and I'll go to the office. And I tell you, because of the nature of our big concrete building, it's not the most efficient type of spaces or distribution of heat. The space heaters in random offices or at someone's feet or whatever. Every time I see a space heater anywhere, and I just see direct electricity going to straight local heat that's in quickly, just, you know,
Yep.
not very efficient, really. I think, you know, if all of these space heaters just were doing a little hash rate, you know,
Yep.
I mean, it's such a waste of electricity.
Yeah.
It's a little cringe. You see all these space heaters and you're like, oh, we should be decentralized mining everywhere. Why not?
Yeah, my wife uses a heated blanket, and I put a Mini 3 in our room. It's essentially it's a long baseboard style electric heater that mines Bitcoin. And ever since I put the Mini 3 in there, she doesn't use her heated blanket anymore. She just
It's warm
which
enough.
which yeah, it's nice for me too because I don't have to deal with the heated blanket literally, on top of me or next to me and warming me up. I prefer it a little bit chillier at night. But so the Mini 3 kind of gets rid of the whole heated blanket nonsense.
Yeah. Uh, when people contact Altair as well, let's say you go to the website here, and you can schedule a call, and so you can get what 15 minutes or so to just kind of orient and get some consultation, decide maybe what direction you might go.
Yeah, absolutely. We do a free intro consultation because I mean, let's face it, people that are getting into Bitcoin mining that are new, you generally have a lot of questions because there's so many products available. You don't know kind of where to start and what you're going to need entirely.
Uh-huh.
Some people have, they'll order a larger size miner, they get it, and then they're like, I can't run it here in my house. It's too loud. It's too much heat. There's just things that you learn as a miner as you go and get started. Where we started this service just to help those people that are new. I really wish I was able to call somebody and like ask them a few questions before I bought my miners. Like that would have been really nice. So it's just kind of our way to give back to the mining community. And then if you want to take that from there and have a more in-depth conversation, one-on-one consultation, we offer that as well.
Yeah. And people can get overwhelmed if you say you're interested and you want to start and you're not sure where. You start looking around and there's so many different options, and then you can get, as you're trying to learn, you get overwhelmed by maybe details on, what numbers should I be looking for, and what would make sense, and do I want to spend a bunch of money and have that just be an expensive project, or what's like cost efficient and sensible. So yeah, it helps orient people instead of losing them or having them say, I don't know, it seems hard. You can kind of say, hey, for you, you can start simply in this direct way,
Yep.
and then down the road, if you decide to go one way or another, you can add in this way or shift in that way. I mean, and others that don't want to deal with hardware at all, there is the hosting aspect as well, which when I first heard about that, I was like, huh, I'm such a like a self-custody,
Yeah.
don't trust, verify kind of a guy. But it's a really innovative, interesting approach where I've known people that, yeah, like you get you sign up for hosting, and you can know the serial number of the actual machine you have, and you can connect to it and look at the stats and see it, and then you see the return. Some places allow you to go visit the place, but you at Altair Tech, you also do the hosting, right?
No, we don't do hosting personally ourselves. Maybe in
Okay.
the future, that's something that we will get into. It's
Okay.
something we're looking into at the moment, but our main focus is reliability of acquiring the miners, right? That is the
Okay.
number one pain point when it comes to Bitcoin mining is acquiring the miners at a reasonable cost
Okay.
and getting rid of all the headaches and tariffs, duties, taxes, shipping,
Mhm.
freight. There's so many things that can go wrong when you're importing goods from overseas. And so we kind of want to remove all those pain points and headaches from this process for the consumer and make it accessible for everybody. Now we do work with a few different hosts. Hosts we've either gone and spoke to, met personally, visited the site, did tours of the site, however the case may be. So we do have a couple different options for a customer if they want to host miners. We can give you a list of hosting facilities that accept outside units, and basically the process is you contact them, make sure there's space available. As long as there's space available, then you're all set. Come to our website, choose your miner, go to checkout. Instead of your shipping info, you put the hosting shipping info, which they'll give you.
Oh,
And then
gotcha.
upon completion, we will send you your tracking number as well as your serial number of your unit right away. A lot of times when you buy miners, especially overseas, and if you were to try to pull this off, you don't get the serial number and you won't know which miner is yours until it actually arrives at the host, which just can leave a little bit of gray area, which we're trying to eliminate all gray areas and make the process as transparent as possible.
There could be paper mining out there where they're like, yeah, you've got hash rate going, but it's not necessarily like directly yours in hardware. With Altair, so there are hosting sites where, starting with Altair Tech, you can go there, get your hardware that's compatible with a hosting site, buy the hardware through Altair with some consultation, and then you'll make sure that that hardware gets to the host, and then that host knows how to connect you.
Yeah, absolutely. So typically the process would take, with us having our inventory here in stock in the United States, it allows us to ship the miners extremely fast to your hosting facility, which allows them to get you up and running even faster. So typical shipping time, if you were to check out today, takes 2 to 3 days, depending on where you are in the country. Most of our inventory is located in St. Louis, so we're pretty much centrally located in the United States. It gives us quick shipping access to most of the country. From there, usually takes a host 48 hours. So, if you were to order a miner from overseas, you're generally going to wait 14 days, if not more, just to receive the miner. And then you got to wait for the miner to be set up. And that's if the process goes smoothly and there's no hiccups at the border. So, if you want to be up and mining next week, we could make that happen for you.
Yeah, that's awesome. You're connected with the suppliers and the supply chain, and you have a sense of like how this is supposed to work. And instead of someone trying to navigate all those things, when you're buying, I mean, there are sometimes you want to go buy something. Oh, you found a good deal, but it's got to be shipped and there's a tariff, or you get it and there's some import duty, or you got to pay for that as well. And all of a sudden, between shipping and duties, you're like, oh no, this is like more than I expected.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that is the number one thing that we strive to eliminate. There's plenty of companies out there that will tell you one thing and then take your order and take your money and then
cheap price.
Yeah, I mean, you pay them the price and that's what it is. They get their money. Typically you can only pay in Bitcoin. That's not necessarily the case with us. We do offer a wide variety of payment options. But, if you send your money overseas, typically Bitcoin, there's no getting that Bitcoin back. There's no consumer protections like we have here in the United States. You can't sue them. Good luck getting your money back from them, right? And then on top of that, they ship you a product and then they didn't declare it right, or they underdeclared and now you owe more tariffs or duties. Well, they filled their obligation. They shipped you your unit.
Yeah.
It's
stuck at it's stuck in customs.
Yep.
And
you got to pay an extra $1,000 for that machine now, or $600 or $800, whatever the bill is. I mean, we've heard nightmare stories from different clients that have tried to do this, and it doesn't always work out.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there's it gets technical. You ship something, and it's got to have a certain special import code for the kind of hardware that it is and what it does, and it's so crazy. But stuff can get stuck at the border just sitting.
Absolutely. We recently had a container get stuck on a ship because the crane on the ship broke. So imagine you ordered something from somebody and now your container's stuck there for, I think it was 10 days. It was stuck on the ship just by itself. So you had shipping time from overseas, then stuck in the port for additional 10 days, plus then shipping us. So there's a lot of hiccups that can happen along the way. And one time that happening, you probably won't want to do it ever again.
Yeah, you might feel burned and be like, screw all that. It's too much to deal with, or, whatever. Yeah, and when people call Altair Tech for consultation or information, I mean, a lot of times you're the guy. They'll be talking to you directly themselves, actually.
Yep, absolutely. So I handle most or all of the customer support here at Altair Tech, and then I also handle a lot of the social media stuff, marketing, and sales. I'm not the owner, but I am the second hand, so to speak.
Uh-huh. The
Everything else.
customer facing guy,
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
face for Altair, yeah. And that's how I saw you for the first time and met you online. And you, Sweet Biddy says hello. Good morning, Sweet Biddy. She's watching. Um, you alerted me a few months ago or so. There's scams online where someone was shilling like, "Hey, we got a bunch of used miners, but they still work pretty well. We're just upgrading. Contact us, whatever, what, yada yada." And it looked pretty legit. I mean, I actually took a second look at it, like, huh, like if I upgrade my mining game, like these are pretty affordable. They're like, I don't know, ant miners or something, more terahash. It was a scam, and you
Yeah.
caught it and called it out and actually let me know about it. And I had to dig in a little more, and I was like, yeah, there's scams out there. People are like, hey, I got some hardware in the back of the truck.
Yeah, absolutely. There, if a deal's too good to be true, it's generally too good to be true, right? We try our best to provide as lowest pricing as possible, at the same time giving you all the protections that you need to be comfortable in your purchase, right? There's so many scams. A lot, like I said, a lot of these companies, they only offer crypto payments, and it's just like, well, you can't reverse the chain.
Right.
So
Like you
once
got
they
the
have your
payment.
money, you're gone.
Mm-hmm. Sweet Biddy says that Cinco Dagos speaks highly of Altair. So anyway, Altair's got good brand recognition out there. Um, I uh, I think of my journey on mining, where I started with these little bit axes here. It's like, okay, I can get one. Oh, I could get a few. They can all kind of run together. That's cool. For someone like me, that's like, well, I'm not necessarily looking for anything big. I don't need the heat per se, but what's a common next step for people to get into something uh, still maybe modestly, but increasing their hash very practically? If you've got a tightish budget and you're not looking at a big system, is the Avalon Q pretty common and popular? What are some other recommendations you might have?
Sure, yeah. So there's a couple things that you kind of want to look into outside of your personal financial situation and goals, right? When you're looking at machines, you kind of want to compare them in a few different ways. You want to compare their efficiency of the unit, and you also want to compare the cost per terahash of that unit, as well as the total power draw of that unit and your electricity prices. So as you scale up generally and get into more expensive units, you tend to pay less per terahash, right? Let's just say, for example, BitAxe, $80 or whatever it is, 80 to $100 for 1 terahash. Where the next step up might be the Q for you. Like for somebody, it might be the Q. Well, the Q is $19 a terahash. So yes, it is more expensive, but it's 4 times cheaper. 4 times or more cheaper than something like that. At the same time, you're getting 90 times the terahash, right? So there's like a balance there that you kind of got to find for yourself and your personal mining, journey. But typically, people would start on a BitX or a nerd miner, something small, like you said, as an educational tool to get started, learn how mining works, setting up a pool, connecting your wallet, getting a payout, stacking sats or solo mining, however you want to do it, and just learn. And then now, if you want to scale up maybe just a little bit and not necessarily lottery mine or solo mine, but you actually want to have something stack at the end of each month. You want to get a payout. Most pools have a minimum threshold of payouts. So for like a BitAxe, for example, you can't get a payout likely forever.
Yeah,
right?
you got to break through a threshold. It's just zero dust.
Yeah, absolutely. Unless you're working with Lightning, there are ways to get a few sats each day, but it's not generally for the entry level person. So next up, you would have something like the Nano 3S. That's 6 terahash. at I think it's 250 right now, give or take. So you're getting 6 times the terahash for a little less than triple the amount of money for a BitX. So at least you have something. It's similar. It's kind of like a solo miner, but it's a little bit more powerful, right? After that, you have devices like the Mini 3, which provides you with 37, 38 terahash. So that can provide you with sats each day. And then you have the Q. So the Q, I think, generates about between $8 and $9 a day in revenue. I'm sorry. I believe that's right. Just double check.
I like the interface on your website where you can type in a quick search here, find and look up a lot of different options real quickly. This here is the Avalon Nano 3S. So like for $300, fairly small, simple device still. And I like how, you'll on many of these, you'll estimate kind of the potential return per
Yep.
day and per month
Yep.
based on the terahash and likelihood of pool generation.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, the Q generates you about $85 a month in revenue. So that's a substantial amount of sats for somebody that's just getting into Bitcoin mining and want to stack the non-KYC sats. After that, you have units like this that can be modified if you want to build your own. We do have kits where you can build your own Antminer, take it apart, turn it into you can take one of these units and turn it into a home miner or a garage miner. Say you have you don't have 240 volt circuits in your garage or in your basement. Heat's not really a problem. Noise isn't too much of an issue. You can easily convert one of these units to a 120 volt home miner and plug it into any wall outlet. So that is nice. There's definitely ways to go about it. It's just learning those ways and then figuring out which option is best for you. And that's kind of where our consultations come in. We can kind of sit with you, give you a rundown. Hey, look at these are the options. This is what this can do. This is what that can do. Now let's talk about your financial situation, your goals. Some people only want to solo mine. Some people don't want to solo mine at all. They want sats each month. That's what they want. They don't want to hit a block. They know it's very unlikely that they're ever going to hit a block. So they don't want to do that. And so we try to offer everything in between.
Is it the what do they call it? Erlacher that converts an Antminer from 220 to 120. There's like a conversion.
So we have our own that we've built. It's called the Erlacher. It's a converted Antminer, but it also runs off Wi-Fi. So that unit is about 53 terahash. You can run that inside your house, run off 120. What I was kind of referring to is just generally one of these units where it wouldn't run off Wi-Fi. It would still run off Ethernet unless you hooked up your own Wi-Fi dongle and adapter to it. But you can, if you just ran an Ethernet cord and plug it in, you can do that. It's just it's a power supply swap. You got to take off the power supply and put on a new one. We have videos and demonstrations on our YouTube channel if somebody's interested in checking that out.
So what are those units behind you again? What the style of box is that?
These are Antminers, S19 XPs, and then there's an old J Pro over there.
Cool. And so some people don't have 220, but you can convert to 120. And then there's always the consideration of, okay, depending on what plug or outlet or room it's going into, how many of these do you have? And is your power going to supply that, or you trip a breaker or something like that? But
yeah, that's a rite of passage for a Bitcoin miner is blowing breakers. And I know when I first started, I got a phone call from my electric company, like, what are you doing? The transformer that they had outside was not sufficient for the amount of power that I was drawing. And so it's just it was funny. It's a rite of passage.
Are you growing some greenery in your house there?
They wanted to know what was going on. How come you're throwing so much power?
Huh. Interesting. And then there's the question of pool. I sometimes just suggest if you have some decent hash rate, the pool gives you that steady little stream. You know you're going to get some, and over time, it's like time in the hash game, the time in the market. Over time, you're going to stack up some non KYC stats. Sometimes people are like, you know what? I know I've just got a little bit of BitX lottery mining here. So then there is that feeling like, well, I'm just going to play the lotto. You never know. It can happen.
Yeah.
It's better odds than Powerball. So, every 10 minutes you got a chance. And, but okay, yeah, chances are low, but you're contributing to hash and you're learning and feeling it and helping decentralize a little bit of hash rate. But some people lotto because of the feeling of, hey, you never know.
So, yeah, absolutely. There's people buy scratch off tickets and lottery tickets, like you said, Powerball tickets all the time. And those are terrible for you. So, yeah, absolutely. I know I've spoken to a customer recently who's like, hey, I spend anywhere from $100 to $300 a month in lotto, scratch off, Keno, things like that. So I figured, why do that when I could do this instead?
And, I know.
And it makes sense, for some people are like that and they want to gamble, as long as you know what you're getting into, right? That's kind of where we stand on it. Is there's a lot of misinformation out there, especially like when a solo block is found by a smaller miner. There's a lot of hopium, right? That being pushed out there that like, you too can do this, but not a lot of people understand, that the odds of that happening are very unlikely, right? It is what it is. So we do field a lot of questions of like, how do I get rich? How do I get 3 Bitcoin? And it's just like, well, it doesn't quite work like that.
I want to win a block.
Yeah, you're not guaranteed to hit a block ever, really. It doesn't matter how much hash rate you have. You're not guaranteed to mine a block.
Yeah, and then, doing the math on that, you see it happen, and it's always exciting and special. It's like, well, someone anonymous or unknown, some solo miner can and does win from time to time.
Yep.
And then that said, if you do invest a lot in it, not that it's the most cost efficient thing in fiat terms to put an investment in and then like expect some pay out, but you can really increase your odds that, okay, it might take some years if you do the math, but like in so many years you have this chance, and that would be life-changing. So
no, absolutely. That's as long as people understand the math, then we're for you. If that's what you want to do, then great. We want to make sure that first before jumping in thinking that I can pool mine or I can do this and I'm going to stack sats. Well, you're really not going to stack sats if that's your goal. If you want to solo mine, great. It's all about providing education. I really think we need more education, not only in the Bitcoin space, but especially in the mining space. But Bitcoin in general, it takes a lot of us to kind of educate the general public on what Bitcoin is and why they should stack it and why they should hold it, why they should custody it themselves. It's, running a node and mining is like after that, right? Like we got to get them through all the way through this other stuff first, get them off the fiat mindset first, and then kind of start breaking into the more of how it works, why you're doing it, why it works this way, things like that.
Yeah, I bet a lot of calls you get, they involve education aspects to it all. I learned myself as I did it, as I just thought about, I'll just get a little BitX, and then I started having to do research and thinking about it, and just okay, where do I go from here?
Right.
And just contributing, being as a Bitcoiner. Yes, you might be a humble pleb, but you're contributing in your own little way and just decentralizing what you can and being part of it, being a Bitcoiner.
Yep.
When I think about, you mentioned talk about wonkiness with tariffs and having a business where you're importing or shipping out, and supply chain stuff, tariffs and taxes and all that things. It's been some months, but there was when I think about supply chain stuff and the sourcing of some of the materials, there's a lot of mining centralization. There's a lot that comes out of China or other areas. There was something that happened, and I can't remember all the details, but a bunch of, I want to say a bunch of ant miners had come in, and then there was a recommendation that went out that said, hey, you want to wipe the firmware, reinstall the firmware on the chips because they had maybe come loaded with something or something that was collecting data or collecting information. Was that real, or have you ever run into that where, okay, this hardware and stuff, it comes in a box and it runs, sure.
Yeah.
But what's running on that hardware behind the
Sure.
scenes? Sometimes
Yeah.
people don't know.
No, absolutely. So that's kind of comes from the open source movement, so to speak, in the Bitcoin mining space, where they want to open source everything, and which is great for firmware and software and things like that. Generally doesn't work for hardware, just because hardware incurs so much cost, right? There's production costs, labor costs, things like that. Where software, it's written, it's coded, it's updated occasionally, once a month, every 2 months. It's very different from hardware. And a lot of people don't like Bitmain just because of really how much market share that they have, right?
Yeah.
They own a majority of the market.
Uh-huh.
And firmware, it's very hard for anybody to tell what their firmware is doing. You're going to need special technical knowledge to understand what is going on. As far as I know, I have never heard anything or seen anything nefarious where you should be like, oh my God, we need to get rid of this firmware. It's terrible. It's doing harm to me. Like that. I understand the idea behind that, right? Because there's a lot of people that don't know, but at the same time, those people that don't know generally would have no idea how to even check, even if there was something going on. You would need to be very technical in the coding aspect of firmware in software, and that's very little subset of the mining community. Now, we do offer various firmwares, aftermarket firmwares, and you can gain different efficiencies. You can do special builds that make it easier for you to convert to 120 running different aftermarket firmware. Bitmain's a technology. They create the product and they manufacture the product. So yes, they don't want to then open source the product that they've spent billions of dollars developing. I mean, who would run a business, develop products, develop software to then, hey, go do whatever you want with it, and then you can return it to us if you break it. That's their warranty it's tough to deal with. It's a known thing in the industry that they're tough to deal with as far as their warranty goes. But that warranty or that situation applies across all hardware manufacturers. If you can overclock and underclock these units using aftermarket firmware, that voids your warranty with the company, because once they send it out, they don't know what it is that you're doing with that unit. So they want to keep it as stock as possible so that they know other things weren't happening with the unit. You weren't pushing your unit too far outside of what it was built to do. Right? Like if it's built to do 90 terahash at 1700 watts, they don't want you trying to push it to 130 terahash at 2200 watts, and then you break your unit, and then since it comes with a warranty, hey, just send it back to them, they'll fix it. It just creates even more overhead as a business. So I understand why they don't want to just give it out to everybody. It makes sense. What if you spend all this money to develop a product, why would you just then give it away? So
that makes sense.
Stories happen. There's a lot of stuff that come out, a lot of narratives that come out. If these ant miners were really doing harm, they would not be running as many as there are all over the world. There's plenty of technical people in this space that would have easily said, here, this is happening, XYZ. They're skimming you, or they're taking extra data from you that you don't need. That information, I believe, would have came out a long time ago. Bitmain's been around for over a decade now, right? Like that's a long time for a business to be around. but I do understand that it is not written here in the United States. It's not free and open
Right.
for everybody to look at. I understand that that could be a worry. That's potential. But you could say the same thing about pretty much every connected Wi-Fi, Bluetooth device that you own. Every piece
Yeah.
of electronic device that you have that runs off Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, you
We
could
we all have phones and we kind of just trust the company, and and
exactly.
they're
And
made in China, and we basically, Apple's going to do its due diligence on stuff, and Altair does due diligence on keeping a finger on the pulse of what's happening out there, what works, how and when, who you trust. And
yeah, and they're starting to bring some of the manufacturing over here to the United States, which is great. We want to see more
Mhm.
manufacturing here in the States, just to help our economy and also just to not keep sending money overseas, right? Bring
Right.
some jobs here to back to America and let us build here. And that is happening. It's taking more pressure, but you know
Yeah.
it takes time for those things to get built out and facilities to get built out. I don't think they'll ever just give you complete access to the $1 billion machine that they developed. I mean, I know if I developed $1 billion machine, I don't think I would just give it away to let
Yeah.
anybody play with and destroy or use how they want.
Yeah, you can get apes that, hey, if you update your firmware this way, you can overclock it to this and double your hash rate. Sounds great. And then
Yeah.
it burns out, and you're
Yes.
like, oh, hey,
Yeah. It happens more often than you would think.
yeah, I would love in America to see that industrial base build up. And I mean, for everything now, certainly for, Bitcoin mining as well. But you think about the rare earths, the industry around that, the manufacturing, the chip making, all these things. When we have these large geopolitical conflicts, and then it's sort of like, okay, there's stuff going on in Iran or whatever stuff. There is it about the oil? Is it about this and that? And there's this like large geopolitical gamesmanship, uh, competition, resource competition thing going on at many levels above what necessarily might make sense to us. But it's often about the resources. And so, okay, if we get into things with China or Russia or elsewhere, um, it's like I would like to see America build up, and it would take years, but build up its industry in terms of, sourcing materials, building the stuff, making the chips, having it home so that,
Yeah.
things like trade wars or imports and taxes or whatever else just aren't another uh, variable in the mix, or the counterparty risk.
Yeah.
You'd hate to have something really happen and then they're just like, okay, well, we're not going to give you that stuff. And
Yeah.
we're like,
No.
uh-oh.
Yeah. Now what do you do, right? And that's kind of even like the BitAxe is open source firmware, but you know 90+% of every component is made in China. The,
Yeah.
the chips are Bitmain chips.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
like
Oh,
it, if they're so bad of a company, you know what I mean, then you wouldn't even want to use anything that they create, right? Just there's progress being made. There are manufacturers here in the United States. Like if you look at Gecko Science, yeah, he's been using different chips and things like that, but he's manufacturing products here in the United States, which is great. He's been developing miners, I think, for almost a decade. Um,
yeah, you've
we're out
got
of stock. We're out of stock of a lot of his products because they do pretty well. But we do have the main coffee there left in
you can
stock right
heat your
now.
coffee with a little
Yeah,
Gecko
absolutely.
Science coffee heater.
Yeah, it's a coffee cup, tea cup heater. If you drink a lot of coffee, I know I do. You just set it on there and it keeps your coffee warm all day. As a
Nice.
Bitcoiner, that's pretty cool. To have a device like that.
I
Um,
literally have people at my workplace that have a coffee heater, but is it doing anything other than just sitting on a desk making extraneous heat?
yeah,
No,
yeah, right.
it should be mining.
Yeah,
every
exactly.
every random heat thing should be like contributing hash.
Yeah, and that's kind of where the industry is going too. You're seeing, especially with hydro developing, you're seeing more and more people integrate. Well, it started kind of with immersion, but they're integrating now hydro into water heaters, and I know a customer of ours does installations where he does in-home heating systems and concrete. He heats the concrete through Bitcoin mining. So pole barn, he'll have heated concrete floors in the pole barn. That's all heated by Bitcoin mining, which is awesome. You know, we're seeing water heaters develop. We're seeing air purifiers. We're seeing anything that uses electricity and generates heat in some way, shape, or form. We're seeing the plebs build, and that's great. We love to see everybody building, you know, hot tubs, saunas. Up here, there's a lot of lumber yards, right? Lumber yards are drying wood all winter long. They should be using Bitcoin miners to dry the wood. You have, like I said, spas, things like that, body shops, right? A paint booth. Paint booths need to be nice and toasty and warm for the paint to dry. Well, you should be using Bitcoin miners to do that. And so there's becoming more and more ways to integrate Bitcoin miners into society, and I think that's only just begun to see that happening.
Yeah, and if the infrastructure to scale out the build of mining hardware in various ways, as it grows, and you know, presuming the materials and the, you know, the construction of it all can grow, and the costs come down, then instead of just wasteful designs where it's like, oh, we got to plug in electricity just to a furnace and a heat coil just to have that, it could just make, I mean, why wouldn't it make sense? Do the numbers, make that instead of, you know, a heat coil system, plug it into ASICs and a little extra hardware and design there, but the plug and play boxes, oh, you need this and that, integrated into all kinds of facilities, homes, buildings, whatever.
Yeah, municipal buildings, you name it. You know, if they're paying for heat, there's ways to integrate Bitcoin into your operation.
Yeah, and I mean, internet is ubiquitous now. Like, okay, you got access to internet one way or another somewhere, and they can be wireless even. So yeah, it just makes sense. So in your journey with all this, you started out on a humble path as well, as you learned many years ago, but you started doing your own home mining, and then you decided you built an outbuilding and started to really uh, expand like the size of your pool. Now, initially just for yourself, but thinking about business ideas. Tell me about that pathway.
Yeah, so I sold my businesses. I ran 2 small businesses in Florida, and that's how I got into Bitcoin, was because my bank decided to freeze all our funds and all our accounts for 6 months, and
Nice.
the only reason that they gave us was, we don't have to tell you a reason why.
That'll wreck your business.
It almost did, you know, it really did. If I didn't convince, you know, an employee that I had to take Bitcoin at least temporarily, and I didn't convince a couple of my suppliers to take it, you know, I probably would have been out of business. You know, it was a very stressful time for me. That's kind of how I went down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, and I started mining for myself. And then as I was mining for myself, I sold the businesses. So I was stayed home. I had a newborn son at the time, so I sold the businesses, stayed home, took care of my son. And as I was mining and growing, I was buying my parts from Altair. That's what I was doing. Yeah. And so there was a job opening that came about, and I threw my hat in the ring. And, you know, as a former customer of his, then I assume that's probably why I got the call first. And here I am today, a number of years later, after I started my journey. I've been with Altair now for a little over a year.
Nice. Yeah, and Altair itself started out with, you know, basically doing smaller scale as businesses grow, starting small scale and like providing parts and stuff. And then just out of, you know, the practicality of needing inventory and not relying on shipping and delays and all that, you start to build up, you know, your assets, your property, your, you know, the parts and components you need to have kind of on stock, and it grows and grows. And so Altair has grown into quite a diversified range of quality hardware. And then with the consultation and education, it's really postured well now to tap into, I would say, a growing market. particularly, like it can be a grind when people think about Bitcoin or mining. They're often coming at it from a fiat mindset of like money or, the fiat, uh, you know, uh, what's coming in, what's going out. But as the price starts to go up again, I can see a lot of Bitcoin business space growing with the an increase in price, where
Yeah.
people start to FOMO back in, the price goes up, and people start calling saying, "Oh, I want to get in again now," or
Yeah.
for the first time. So,
Yep. No, absolutely. That happens in every cycle. I think with the introduction of the big beautiful bill and that restructuring of the depreciation aspect of it really kind of grew hash rate exponentially. Not only do we have the public companies get into Bitcoin mining and everything, we also had, especially towards the end of the year last year after that bill passed, uh, allowing customers to depreciate 100% of the asset year one is against their W-2 income or taxable income. That's really big, especially if you are a business. We had customers who, you run a construction company, and at the end of the year, I owe 100 grand to the government. Well, you can buy 100 grand worth of miners and take that deduction off that taxable income. And so now you have $100,000 worth of machines up and running, and you have generating more revenue. And then next year, you're going to have more taxable income that you're going to have. So then it's just kind of a rinse and repeat type of thing.
right.
Kind of like real estate investors have the 1031 where they can defer the tax liability when they sell a property as long as they quickly get into another property. It's not the same, but kind of the same idea of each year you can kind of rinse and repeat and kind of keep going.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of why I think we've seen just a natural explosion in hash rate and not necessarily in price. I think we have more miners online and more machines online because of that.
Yeah, so like towards the end of last year, the end of the year's coming up. People are looking at what they call bonus depreciation, right?
Yep.
Bonus depreciation, like, well, I'm gonna have to pay this money to the government anyway. So people thinking about it and using strategy, yeah, write an amount off by buying up a bunch of miners and writing that off, and then you have infrastructure to generate more down the road, and
Yep.
so it could be a good strategy.
Yep. Absolutely.
Um, Now, striking out on your own takes some courage, and so when you've been through, like, okay, you sell your business, you've got a new one, you start getting into mining. Uh, I had a podcast recently where my guest was talking about how people can get addicted to kind of the safety and security of a salary, and it can be hard to break free and strike out independently or be an innovator or take some risk but go and do things.
Yep.
And you were in that situation for a while where some things are up in the air, life's changing, but you knew you were in on Bitcoin, and so you put in a lot of proof of work to start and grow and learn from all that, and then getting in with Altair. Has it been quite a wild ride, like an adventure on your Bitcoin journey? You
Yeah.
took
I
the
mean,
risk.
yeah, no, people thought I was crazy when I sold my businesses and went in on Bitcoin and stayed home and took care of my kid and started mining Bitcoin. I probably have a higher risk tolerance than most people, and that's just me knowing that about myself. Before I ran the businesses, I played poker for a living for a number of years, so that's probably where that kind of comes in at in my personality. But yeah, it is risky, but as long as you do your own research and you do a lot of research, don't just trust what everybody's telling you, but do the research for yourself and find out for yourself. You can lower your risks in a lot of aspects, even business. For example, that when the bank cut off our bank accounts for no reason, I didn't have to just rely on Bitcoin. I did have a backup in place should something ever happen like that. And we had at the time, Square offered card readers that plugged into your phone. I never used it. Or if I did, it was very rare that we ever used it. Maybe at a festival or a show or something, and we're selling a product, we might use it there. But outside of that, we never used it. But I kept the accounts open and I had things there in place. So if something were to happen, at least I could take a card in store. I couldn't take cards online for our business or through our wholesale customers, but in store, I could at least swipe somebody's debit or credit card. So it's just all about being prepared and doing your own research. There's so much information out there and so many good people out there who are willing to kind of tell you where they failed, right? And where the pitfalls were for them. That doesn't mean they're going to be the same for you, but at least you'll have a better understanding. My big thing was, don't necessarily just look at the books and read the textbooks. Go out and do and learn for yourself. And by doing that, you will generally learn a lot more than just by reading a book. Real life experience is a great thing.
Yeah, and if you don't mind a little tinkering, and I mean, it can be quite fun. I mean, you make a plan, tinker, try things out, build it, modify it, learn all that, and
things break. Things do break in this industry. That's how I learned. Is I blew up my power supply. So I'm like, oh well, my miner won't turn on anymore. What do I do?
Replace the power supply.
Let's try to replace the power supply. See if that works. First let's replace the control board. Let's replace the power supply. Try a new cable. Just trial and error and experiencing different things and going about learning. That's the best way to learn, in my opinion. It's just hands-on learning and getting yourself in that situation.
Yeah, totally. And all the big mining companies you see now, I mean, they all were started by people who were learning and starting small, navigating that, figuring it out, making mistakes, growing, and building new technologies on top of that. But mining is as these big mining companies have grown, it's a real competitive business. Or it can be like, if they've had to take on some debt or credit to grow, and then they kind of need that fiat money. I mean, they've got a foot in the door of fiat as well, and or maybe they're public and they've got to show something for profit, whatnot. But so even as they're earning Bitcoin and stuff, sometimes they've got to sell that Bitcoin to cover debts or to grow.
Yeah.
It's a hard business. So even you think, oh, the big guys are collecting so much Bitcoin, it's very competitive. Now, if the Bitcoin price takes off, like, they're all fine also. But yeah, they've got a foot in the door of fiat. And so it's a hard business. What's your sense of, like, I want mining to be very, very decentralized. At the same time, there are good companies out there that are very large. I have a friend who works for a large Bitcoin mining company, and their ethics are good. They're in it for the right reasons. They're doing big stuff. And then they're kind of, also like, okay, we need to get into AI as well. And I don't see that entirely as competitive. It's just maybe bolstering the business generally. Where do you see large scale mining going? Maybe do you look at that landscape much?
Yeah, I mean, we have some of the larger hosting companies and mining companies. They don't necessarily buy units from us, just because they can generally forecast out what they're going to need a little bit better than your smaller to mid-sized miners. But they do need, like I said, things break. So they do need parts and cables and things like that. So that's generally where they come, is because they have clients and shareholders they have to report to. They need to get their miners back up and running, and they need to do it quickly. They can't afford to wait for a ship to arrive from overseas. So they'll ring us and say, hey, we need 100 new cables, tomorrow, basically, And so that's kind of where we kind of fill that role for them. As far as the AI goes, I do think it's interesting. I think we're seeing a rush to AI because of the strain that hash prices put on these larger mining facilities, because it's not an easy industry to be in, especially at scale. the guys with the cheapest power will eventually win, right? That's just how it works. Cheapest capex and cheapest power, you will win. So we are seeing a shift there, but I do see, I think that shift is also going to be very competitive too, because I think the people that were the first in going into that direction will be okay. The people that transition a little bit too late, well, they'll be too late to the AI front, and they're also going to be leaving the mining front at the wrong time too, right? Like it's kind of like selling Bitcoin at the bottom. You don't want to sell it at the bottom. You want to take some profits at the top, not at the bottom. So I do think it's going to be a little bit more competitive than a lot of the companies think, and not everybody's going to be able to pull it off. But it does pair well with a company who's trying to source power and needs the power, right? It's all about infrastructure. Where mining and AI kind of differentiate is AI typically needs that fast fiber internet. You know, they need a solid connection where, and it needs to be fast.
And uptime is like 99%.
Yeah,
like,
they cannot be down. It's not allowed in AI. And so with Bitcoin mining, that's not necessary. Bitcoin mining doesn't require that. You can go mine off Starlink, off a, you know, or a wireless hotspot or something like that. You don't need that. You just need a solid, good connection. It doesn't matter how fast the connection is. So even though it's similar in some ways, they're not the same. And not every company is going to pivot as easily as others. Some people are going to be in regions where that AI infrastructure is already in place, and they can easily convert over to a little bit of AI and a little bit of Bitcoin mining. Some people that have tried, they might have to build out more facilities just for that AI workload, and that's can lead to, you know, overspending and bad budgeting. You know, that can definitely happen.
I think what was it? I think BitDeer was having some struggles, challenges, because I mean they grew fast, and I don't know the details, but they, you know, they weren't showing as much profit, or, you know, tethered to the Bitcoin fiat price. You know, they had debts, and there are mining companies that struggle, and maybe they'll be fine, and then others that are nuzzled up close to the cost-efficient energy sources, or make good deals with power administrations or governments, or you know, can source you know, cheap power, basically. And at the same time, Bitcoin mining is also very positioned easily to be quite decentralized, so you can fill in little gaps in lots of little places, and it doesn't have to be a big farm per se. It can be very distributed, fill in the gaps, whereas AI kind of has to be
centralized,
a farm,
I guess.
with steady, constant 99.9% uptime, steady power draw, and it's like, oh, power's expensive, and AI is like, yeah, but we still need it.
Yeah, exactly. Where a miner can turn off or move locations, right? That's a big part of the industry, growing part of the industry right now is off-grid mining and things like that. You know, we have a lot of farmers here in the United States, especially across the Midwest, who are struggling. And typically for a farmer, the only way for you to generate more revenue is to acquire more land and grow more crops. That's the name of your business. The only way you can grow is, yes, and try to increase your yield any way you can from what you currently have. But typically, if you've been around a farm that's been around for a few decades, you pretty much maxed out, you know, your landscape. But there's a lot of untapped or capped natural gas wells that are run through these farms. So Bitcoin miners can come in, they can drop a shipping container on your farm where it only takes up, you know, 20 by 20 worth of space generally, you know, or 40 by 40 by 20. And they can come in and they can use all the gas that's there coming off that well and instantly convert it with a natural gas generator or something like that and convert it right to Bitcoin. And for a farmer, that's great. They don't have to invest. Most of the deals, most of the time, they don't have to invest anything, right? It's typically like a profit share agreement type deal. And they can instantly gain more revenue with what they already have on their land. And
Yeah.
that could potentially save a lot of smaller farms here in the United States, which would be great. We would love to see that happen for our farmers.
Yeah, I really hope all of that just grows and grows and grows steadily and puts its roots out and builds up all of that decentralized infrastructure. Um, I at a lo- at when I stretch my mind out, when I think about the future and what I imagine, say, a Bitcoin integrated world, on one level, there's simply holding Bitcoin. So, like, there's Jason Lowry's soft war sense of, geopolitical strategic resource capture, where nation states want to simply hold Bitcoin. So, okay, yeah. So, say nation states can, however, they might acquire their Bitcoin, they have Bitcoin, and Bitcoin becomes uh, a power, an extension of power, a holding of a hard asset, a hard property, and wielding economic power.
Yep.
But one step further than that is hashing. So I would almost think that, okay, yeah, strategic Bitcoin reserve, I get it. Could be strategic for large nation states to, might be a good idea for them to get some
Yep.
and not sell it. On another hand, I would think nation states would want to have Bitcoin mining infrastructure in their nation. One, I mean, like we talked about, stabilizing grids or making proper, sensible use of otherwise sequestered or wasted energy.
Right.
But two, it's that foundation of building or maintaining your strategic Bitcoin reserve.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would almost sort of think that nation states, like you just imagine China is looking at Bhutan and going, here's Bhutan, little happy country, not a big economy, has had challenges. And yet over time, they've just quietly mined and mined and mined off their hydro, and they have energy. And now they're sitting on some Bitcoin and their economy's like, all right.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Nation states are mining Bitcoin, in my opinion. I already believe
China has clamped down on it.
Yeah, they've clamped down on it for the everyday person. But just because China says the everyday person can't do it doesn't mean those rules don't apply to the government.
Yeah. Yeah. Illegal for you, but we will do it. Like I just imagine China's well in on it at some level, even as they're working their bricks and gold and paper thing over there. I just imagine they've got to be in on Bitcoin behind the scenes. They're just probably careful about it. But when we
kind
go
of like
to
how telling people how much Bitcoin you own, that's not.
Yeah, right.
That's one of the first things you learn is you don't disclose how much Bitcoin you actually hold.
Yeah. So China playing the long game, they're certainly very mindful and careful about these kinds of things. And meanwhile, America may have its high time preference and like, here's what we have. And a matter of fact, we somehow, I guess we sold some. How did that happen? We don't even know. And it's so stupid. But yeah, China, meanwhile, is quietly just like playing the long game. So hopefully we wake up and catch up. I mean, supposedly America has more on the record, Bitcoin than China.
Yeah,
But
hash. Yeah, well, the hash rate as well.
oh, they do. America does, huh?
Yeah. Well, I mean, public knowledge.
Publicly.
You know what I mean? It's kind of like open source versus closed source, right? Like we can kind of see our stuff and we can't see theirs, right? And that's just the nature of the game. We're kind of just giving our information out to them and not getting any information back.
Yeah, I can see all that strategy going on. So before we run out of time here, as we go to the website, let's go to Altair. I want to talk about Altair, and what would you like to share or pitch that I either haven't gotten to or should know, you would like customers, prospective clients to know about? If people come to Altair and you're going to give them a pitch, where do you start, or how's that conversation go?
Yeah, starting with, Bitcoin mining isn't as scary and complicated as a lot of people think. A lot of times they see things on the news or they see big units like this behind me and they're like, I can't do that. Like, there's no way my wife would allow it. There's no way. I don't have the infrastructure. Like, I can't take part in this, even though I would like to. So the first thing is there is an option for everybody to get started. And we encourage you to just start, right? Like you said, if you wanted to start with your BitAC, just start and learn. From there, you can then determine, okay, I like this. This is cool. This is a fun hobby. Or I want to do more with this, or I want to learn more. So it's all about just getting started and having a trusted place where you can go to look at units or talk to somebody. We're probably one of the only companies that offer that, free consultations. There's not many companies that'll sit there and talk to you for free, right? Usually you got to pay somebody to get their knowledge from them, and that's not how we want to do business. We want everybody at least to have a path into Bitcoin mining and just getting started. From there, obviously, you want to build out your own farm and you want some consultations and make a larger investment, then yes, there's paid consulting. But if you just want to get started, there is a way for everybody to get started Bitcoin mining at almost any budget.
Awesome. Yeah, like no matter where you're coming from, you can get on the right track. Whether you're thinking like, okay, you want to be a little big time, you want something commercial because you got the space or the power for it, and get some real skin in the game. You got options.
We ship worldwide too, so we have customers in various different countries who they might have solar that they're trying, like, hey, I got a couple extra solar panels. Instead of paying it back to the grid for a penny a kilowatt hour, like I might as well turn that into money, right? And so there's just so many aspects to mining that just give us a call, book an appointment. Generally you'll hop on and talk to me and we can kind of break it down a little bit further.
There's something comforting to, an 80 IQ pleb like me. I enjoy, sort of like you think about like having a little nerd NOS here, just plugged into a wall outlet, and there it sits at your bedside table, and you can just kind of look at it, gaze upon it, feel the glow of Bitcoin shining on you. It's sort of like just getting off zero. It's like you can just start somewhere.
Just start.
Just start. And then you're going to feel that. And then you'll decide more later if you kind of want to do a little more and do a little more. You may have kind of your next little step that, oh, I kind of like this. I'm going to do the next thing. So, and then if you ever have questions as well, consulting wise, you go to altertech.io, and up at the top, you can schedule a call, and you are here to help. Complimentary introductory meeting. You can use the calendar here to schedule a video call, and they'll be talking to you, I presume. So, it's great stuff. And then you'll find out, like, okay, what's your situation? What are you interested in? Maybe what's your budget? What do you want to get out of this? And you may be providing a lot of education, and you'll usher them in a good direction versus kind of aping in and maybe making a mistake that they get burned on.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's there's no obligation to then purchase from us as well, right? It doesn't cost anything. If you're, in Germany or something and you want to have a consultation, which I've done, and customer in Germany can, hey, I'm closer to China, I can get these parts or whatever from the Chinese supplier fairly quickly, or whatever the case may be, they can do that. That's okay, right? We just want the proper information and education out there. And we feel as like, if we do that, the community as a whole will grow. And that's really what we want to see in general.
I like the philosophy of that, the ethics and the values of the company in that regard. And so just because there's a business model, we
have families to feed too, and bills to pay. And
it's a business, but the vision and the goal of it also is Bitcoin education, getting Bitcoin out there by doing your business well and helping people out. you're getting it out there and spreading the word and providing education. So, and it's fundamental to the long-term development growth of all this culturally, as we
Right.
all are learning about this. And yeah, I love it. Altair is on X. You can find them at Altair_tech here. You can search for Altair Tech. They're on X. You can follow them there, get updates and info. Deals, a free shroud when you order an Avalon Q here. So anyway, Kat, you can get the info. Hey, there we are. They reposted our deal right now. You can be found at Kris Altair Tech, Kris at altairtech.io, and that looks like an email as well. So you are accessible and available.
Yep.
That's awesome. I love what you're doing. I really appreciate the time you've given me. I'm always learning myself. I found Altair's website to be really nice and easy to navigate. Look at all these different various options. It's a trusted supplier, and you've navigated the complication bits of supply chain and shipping and tariffs and all the things like that. You can kind of be that one-stop shop to know kind of, okay, what do you want to do? And then also we're going to make sure that that experience is done nicely for you. So you're not fingers crossed hoping on getting something in a janky box from whoever. So
yep.
Anyway,
no rocks and boxes here.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
I've heard of that happening.
There are stories. I know. Yeah. There are so many stories of just whatever. And then it's like, what court are you going to take that up in? You're going to sue him in China or?
You're right. Absolutely.
That's awesome. Anything else you want to make sure that your audience hears before we part ways and get you on your day?
Check out the site. Like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to contact us. We're always here to help. And, our goals, again, are just to make Bitcoin mining more accessible for everybody, from the tiny, small home. I want to start with $50 miner to, hey, I'm trying to spend $50,000. We can treat everybody the same way and give you the same kind of service.
Yeah. Or, taxes are coming up, end of the year's coming up. I want the depreciation bonus. And what do I do? I'm looking at a budget for a thing and I want to do it fast. And you can be like, okay, let's make sure we do this right.
Yep, exactly.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining me. All the information you provided me. I love your story. I love the company and all the offerings you're doing, the education, everything about it. So it's been great, really fun. And yeah, thanks for coming on today. It's been great.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, invite me on.
You're welcome. Everybody else, we'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody. Bye.